How's it going, y'all? It's Nixus here. I am back from my little vacation. Went to my dad's for Halloween, had a blast. But I am back now, and I had my Poetic Justice video already recorded. I had it ready. I had 3 hours worth of content recorded, only to go back and realize that the audio on the video was never playing.
Son of a bitch!
So it was literally muted the entire time.
Oh my god!
So I am re-recording it. But if you like this video, like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more. And without further ado, let's get into it.
You really have to understand, the Poetic Justice Theory is mainly about 4 songs. 4 songs in particular. 3 of those songs, Buried Alive, Poetic Justice, and Effin' Problems. Buried Alive occurring, again, on the timeline in November of 2011. This is before the Club Paradise tour. If you look at Buried Alive, Kendrick is detailing out in these lyrics not only his initiation into the music industry, he's comparing Drake to R. Kelly at one point. And he also is saying that Drake is telling him, hey, you have to rap a certain way.
Okay. So this is where I broke down the entirety of his Buried Alive interlude. And from what I read, 100% he's talking about Drake. There's literally no other way to interpret this, because he says, blame it on your Canadian. I don't call back. We're in the area cruising in Toronto. Hit me on the cellular. Thought he was going to sell me a false word like the rappers I know. Literally rung me up on the phone. Thought he was going to, give me advice to help me out, a false word, because he's always called Drake a false prophet of sorts. He's always come after him after his religious beliefs as well. He feeds the public and his core audience this information. He gives them this idea that he's some sort of god, because he calls himself the sixth god, the 6ix9ine god, god of the six. That's where the false prophet narrative comes from, because he quite literally calls himself a god. Sat down with a few drinks, probably a private VIP booth, the black Maybach, 40 pulled up Jeeps, that's his entourage. All he was missing was Aaliyah. So he's been calling him a creep from the beginning, and he's been calling him a pedal to the metal from the very beginning. Felt like the initiation, a reality living in the Matrix. And the Matrix is this world where your biggest ideas, your biggest fantasies, the only limit is your mind in the Matrix. And in the movie, Neo goes through this whole world learning about the code and going too deep into the code, how to manipulate the code to his advantage, only to later on in the trilogy find out that the world that they've been living in was nothing but a simulation. It wasn't even real. And that in reality, humanity was being kept in captivity by robotic overlords, and they were essentially kept in this state of sleep, and the robots were using the humans as energy. They were quite literally sapping the mental energy from these people, but they've been keeping them in this simulation where their minds are constantly active, their minds are constantly running, and it's giving them power. It's feeding into this machine. And so when he's saying, a reality living in the Matrix, it's quite literally, he's like, it's a false world that he's looking into. And the reality living in the Matrix is an allegory, in my opinion, for people in the music industry who are deep in the music industry, people in Hollywood, people in the entertainment industry, people on, reality television, stuff like that. That's their reality, but it's not our reality. It's not the real reality. You know what I'm saying? It's this false reality that they've created, and they've kind of locked themselves in it. It's almost like an echo chamber. In a past video, I talked about Amandla Stenberg And I picked out a certain point in the video where she says, I live in the bubble of my own reality. Those are her words, not mine. I'll even put up the clip right now.
Of course, I live in the bubble of my own reality.
But yes, that's what she said. And so this reality living in the Matrix, it is quite literally an echo chamber of their own reality. And an echo chamber is a room where one's thoughts and opinions and feelings and emotions are constantly being bounced off and then back to them. It's not reflecting off of anybody else. It's like, think of it as like a room with a rubber ball. You throw the ball and it's bouncing all over the walls and it has nowhere to go. And then eventually it will come back to the person who threw it. They reject outside opinions at all times because it will either cripple or completely destroy the reality that they've trapped themselves into. Talking casually about the industry, same literally was how I was saying, and how the women be the tastemakers for the shit we making. He's literally saying that your reason to make music should not be, the culture or you're sharing your story or bearing your soul before your audience or a way to escape the environment that you grew up in. It should be to impress the hoes. And that's Drake's perception. That's what he thinks. That's his target audience, the hoes. And he's telling Kendrick that should be your target audience as well. The industry wants you to be a certain type of way when it comes to hip hop. They want you to make music for the hoes. And there's a reason why I'm not using the word ladies. He says women, but I know in La Brianni's, that means hoes. Because that's what Drake sees all women as, hoes, objects, walking fleshlights to be used and then disposed and then sent on their way. Moving on, and he said that he was the same age as myself, and it didn't help because it made me even more rude and impatient. So Kendrick is hearing this bullshit about, oh, you gotta make music for the hoes, Kenny. You gotta make music for the hoes. That's our target audience in this industry. And Kendrick's already sitting there like, man, that's not why I got into this industry, but I'm gonna listen to what you have to say. Not because I'm taking in the information that you're giving me, but because I genuinely want to see where you're going with this. And so he's like, okay, so he's immature. All he cares about is money, fame, surface level shit, getting bitches, whatever. Not on my level. Instantly, you can always tell when somebody's not on your level mentally because they'll quite literally tell you themselves. You don't have to say anything a lot of times with these ignorant ones. They will 1000% expose themselves as ignorant every time without fail. Just let them talk. And so he was like, when I found out he was the same age as me, it disgusted me because he's like, what the fuck? How are we the same age? And our priorities are so different in life. He could tell that he was born in privilege and that he didn't understand or know struggle the way he did. And by he, I mean Drake, and the other he, I mean Kendrick, because context is important. Kendrick is like, this dude does not know struggle the way I know struggle. This dude hasn't struggled a day in his life, and it shows just in his priorities when it comes to making music. Because especially in the hip hop industry, every artist who does hip hop, they do it for a personal reason. Some people have stories that they want to share, their story, and they want to help people who may be going through the same thing to let them know, hey, you're not alone. There's people out here who share your pain. And music reaches deeper than words ever could. So, somebody listens to this song about this guy who grew up in Compton, survived on the music alone, and ended up ascending to heights beyond our wildest dreams. That could really inspire somebody who's in that same situation to get up out of that situation and achieve the same things through hard work and dedication, because they see, oh, Kendrick got there, and stood on his morality and his ethics, and he kept his integrity strong despite being in this industry where people are very easily and oftentimes corrupted by the surface level shit. He didn't forget where he came from. And so that would inspire somebody to do the same thing, to keep on the grind, to pursue their passions, their dreams, their aspirations, and become something better. Blame it on Mr. OVOXO. Now, there's only one rapper in this industry that refers to himself as Mr. OVO, October's very own. He is quite literally calling him out without saying his name directly. He starts off broad, I noticed. He starts off very broad. He just says, "You're Canadian," where it's like, okay, you can already start to speculate who he's talking about. But then in the very next line, he goes in, he enhances. He narrows it down. It's like a game of Clue. It's like, he's in Canada. He's in Toronto. He's kind of an arrogant person. Drives a black Maybach. He's kind of a creep. Likes him young. He says that we should make songs for the hoes. He's the same age as me. And then he just comes out and says his name. He calls himself Mr. OVOXO. The reason why I'm breathing all the vanity I know is because of Mr. OVO. Because he's vain. He's vain and arrogant. That's all he cares about is the vanity, the material shit, the surface level. There's no depth. There's no substance. It's all outside appearance. The reason why my best friend says she loves me more than life, but I live a double life and need to let her go. The reason why the highlight was when he said, "You belong to the people when you're outside. You are not allowed to be yourself when you're out in public, when you're a part of the industry. You cannot be yourself outside. When you are outside, you belong to the people. Their perception of you matters." And he says, "So dig a shovel full of money, full of power, full of pussy, full of fame, and bury yourself alive." It's all surface level. He's saying drown yourself in this surface level shit. And on the last part that the last time I recorded, I made the analogy that this is Kendrick documenting how he was tempted, and I even equated it to the temptation of Jesus, just the temptation of anybody in general, and very few people are able to resist said temptation. So this is Kendrick's temptation by the corrupt, the evil, the devil, the industry, before Kendrick, rose through the ranks and took the industry by storm. This was when he was just starting off, just at the very beginning. And he's saying that I had to develop a whole split personality. A person has 3 personalities. The one that people see on the surface out in public, the one that's seen by friends and family, and then the personality when they're by themselves, when no one else is around. And those 3 personalities make up the person as a whole. Here is a perfect example of that. Kendrick is saying, I had to split my personality in fragments. Drake told me when I'm outside, I belong to the people. And Kendrick is somebody who has made it his life goal to stay true to himself. When he heard this popular musician in the industry tell him that he has to be fake when he's out in public in order to keep his fans happy, he's been talking about how shallow and fucking power hungry and money hungry Drake was from the very beginning. And mind you, this interlude is on Drake's album, y'all. This is on his Take Care album. And he says, so dig a shovel full of money, full of power, full of pussy, full of fame, and bury yourself alive. He's saying drown in it. Bury yourself in all of this materialistic shit because it's yours, because let it become a part of you. And I imagine that being something that a demon would say, where it's like, this is all you, this is all yours, all of this could be yours if you just submit, if you give yourself up, give me your soul, and all of this, the fame, the money, the power, the bitches, it will all be yours. Then I died. Not that he physically died, but metaphorically, the old him before the industry, that old good kid in the mad city, died. He had to play along by these rules in order to get to where he needed to be. It's a cycle of death and rebirth. He's saying the old me, the naive me, the one who didn't know the industry, that part of me died. And a new version of me was born. The version of him that he puts on when he's out in public. This man was struggling with darkness even back then. So I'm surprised he was even able to stay as sane as he did coming through this industry. But then when I read his lyrics, I'm like, no sane person wrote this shit. In the end, the music was the only thing that kept him sane, which, I can understand that as a musician, as somebody who has a deep, intimate relationship with music. Music can quite literally keep you sane. I've yapped on enough. Let's let him
now
continue.
That you're in this industry, you need to keep women in mind. When women be the tastemakers for the shit that we're making.
Yeah.
He's telling him he's got to rap a certain way. So dig a shovel full of money, full of power, full of pussy, full of fame, and bury yourself alive. Then I died. So he's telling you that he no longer belongs to himself. He belongs to the industry, and that his message will be buried alive in the lyrics because he now has to code the way that he talks to you, the listener.
I like that take because that's literally what he did, was bury his lyrics inside of, or bury his truth inside of his raps and his writing. And gradually, little by little, those truths became a lot louder and a lot more surface level. First, he was burying them deep within the lyrics, but as time went on and he got more and more notoriety and he rose even further and further through the ranks, his lyrics started to make their way to the surface, and people started paying more attention and decoding and breaking down his lyrics more. And so gradually those messages started floating to the surface. And we're just now at a point where we can look at his lyrics through new lenses and we can start picking out things that we had never seen before.
Second song that you have to understand when understanding the Poetic Justice Theory is The Heart Part 3.
I listened to The Heart Part 3 as well, and he's about to explain it, but I did listen to it. I listened to all of the songs that were presented to me because I had never heard The Heart Part 1, I'd never heard The Heart Part 2, The Heart Part 3, but like the messages on there were still just as strong and just as relevant and just as worth listening to.
One, it comes out 2 days before Good Kid, Mad City.
Right.
And two, it is detailing out where Kendrick is mentally with not only his relationship with you, the listener, but his relationship with hip hop and how TDE pulled off this heist on Drake.
Right, because it wasn't just Kendrick himself that did this to Drake. It was all of TDE, because all of TDE are like this. They are very close. They are brothers. Not literally brothers, but they are brothers. Brothers in Christ. They dogged on Drake as a collective because Kendrick even has said multiple times that his homies, the ones that were there with him since the beginning, those are his brothers for life. J-Rock, Schoolboy Q, Ab-Soul, Dave Free, like those are his homies, his best friends. Those are his brothers. And you can't break a bond like that. You can't compromise a relationship that has withstood the test of time. And that's why when Drake was coming out with that bullshit about Day Free, Kendrick didn't even he didn't bat an eye because he's like,
What?
If you think you can sow your little seeds of discord to try to make me look sideways at my brother, at my homeboy like that, like you clearly have zero idea what we've been through. Cause if you even knew a fraction of what we went through, those words would have never come out of your mouth. And that's the thing, Drake doesn't know. Because he doesn't know that life. He doesn't know Kendrick. He doesn't know Dave Free. He doesn't know anybody on TDE, not personally. He doesn't know what their life is like. So, yeah, of course they roasted him as a collective. And that's probably why Drake threw that Dave Free line in there, was because he was still salty about the bullshit about how TDE made him look goofy.
Order of business that I have to draw your attention to, especially when it comes to the Heart Part 3, is this line right here, where he says, truthfully, I just started rapping to get away. Mm-hmm. I never thought your favorite rapper would want a verse.
Truthfully, I started rapping to get away. That's his motivation right there. He tells us exactly what his motivation was to start rapping. It was an escape. It was to escape from the horrors that he had to grow up in. That Compton life, that street life. It was a way to get out of the hood, mentally as well as physically. And so he says, I never thought that your favorite rapper would want a verse. Everybody's favorite rapper at that time, there were a lot of people who had a lot of favorites, but like the collective main poppin' rapper at that time was in fact Mr. Lawbree Graham.
My fella got hit 25 times with a K.
That line is a direct parallel to Kendrick's rap way later in Like That. He references this line specifically, but in a different way. When he's saying my nigga got hit 25 times with a K, he's saying he gave him 25 verses. He worked either with him or for him 25 times. That is a very specific number. You don't just throw out random numbers unless you know for a fact that shit is legitimate. For all your dogs getting buried, that's a K with all these nines. Kendrick has referred to himself as AK because he has a lot of nicknames. K Dot, Kenny, Kung Fu Kenny, Mr. Morale. But he said, never thought that your favorite rapper would want a verse. Nigga got hit 25 times with a K. So using the context of the line before it, you can only attribute that as your favorite rapper wanted verses from me, so I gave him a verse. 25 times. And this isn't throughout his entire career spanning all the way up to 2024. This was in the Heart Part 3, which was in 2012. So by 2012, Kendrick had already given Drake 25 collaborations in some way, shape, or form. All right, go ahead and hydrate, brother. I'm gonna probably do the same.
Kendrick is telling you that he never thought your favorite rapper at the time. And if you look at the charts, Drake was everywhere. You couldn't go into a record store. You couldn't go to AMC 30 in Sterling Heights, Michigan.
Drake was quite literally everywhere, bro. When fucking One Dance came out, that shit was everywhere. When Hotline Bling came out, that shit was everywhere. That, like, the memes are still being used to this day for fucking Hotline Bling. Like, don't even get me started on when God's Plan came out. There's still memes from that song too. But like, just Drake was everywhere back then. And, you know, back then it was the whole, him and Rihanna. And I think he was still on Degrassi at the time too. So there was that. So yeah, he was literally everywhere.
You couldn't get in your car without hearing a Drake song. He was arguably one of the biggest rappers on the planet off of a mixtape. So Kendrick Lamar...
Off of a mixtape is fucking crazy though. Like, that's how you know he was an industry plant. Cause like, how the fuck... Because there are many rappers who will submit mixtapes and will never get anywhere near the notoriety that Drake achieved. But this fucking little long neck, sloth looking kid actor from a Nickelodeon show put out a shitty mixtape, and all of a sudden he's ascended to one of the greatest rappers of this generation.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
I still don't understand how that happened, especially after the whole thing of him doing blackface and talking to minors in uncomfortable ways and doing weird stuff with minors in front of his audience, we let him get away with way too much. That's why I 100% think that he was an industry plant. There's no way, because his career should have been over when those blackface photos leaked out. His career should have been over when he got caught kissing that 17-year-old on stage. His career should have been over when they found out that he was texting a literal 14-year-old, giving her advice about boys and telling her that I miss you. Like, there are many times throughout Drake's career where his career should have been over, but it just wasn't. It's almost as if somebody was like purposefully sweeping that shit under the rug in order to preserve his career because it was generating so much money for them.
The industry darling that was Drake in his early career. I never thought your favorite rapper would want a verse. Your favorite rapper wanted a verse from him. So what did he do? He hit him 25 times with the Kendrick Lamar. The other part of the Heart Part 3 that you need to understand is when Kendrick Lamar says, 3 hollow tips aimed at your head, I'll be damned if the chopper jam now. And before that bar, he says, I need to find a better way to stand out. I need to find a better way to take your fans now. 3 hollow tips aimed at your head, I'll be damned if the chopper jam now. A hollow tip is a bullet that expands upon impact. So like,
Yep. Shit is nasty. Like, hollow tips are designed to rip, tear, and destroy. They are not designed to be clean shots in any capacity. It's designed to be messy.
it hits the target and then boom, like that. It'll just open up and expand upon impact. Those are these 3 songs. He's talking about these 3 songs in particular. Buried Alive, Poetic Justice, and Fucking Problems.
The analogy is that, with each song, each hollow tip, it hits the target, much like a hollow tip, how it expands or combusts a second time once it hits the target. There's the initial hit from the verse aimed directly at Drake. Jesus fucking Christ. I just thought about Euphoria again, y'all. That explains why he said in Euphoria, the very first time I shot me a Drake, the homie had told me to aim it this way. I didn't point down enough. Today I show you I learned from those mistakes. I shot at you previously. It wasn't, for everybody back then, we thought it was Control. We thought Control was the shot at Drake. But it turns out Kendrick has been shooting at Drake even before the Control verse. He has been shooting at him from inside. The calls were coming from inside the house the whole time.
And finally, the last thing that you need to know about the Heart Part 3 is that it is the song that comes out right before Good Kid, Mad City. And Kendrick Lamar asks you, the listener, specifically,
are you ready to watch hip hop die on October 22nd?
Will you let hip hop die on October 22nd?
And that's fucking crazy too, because people started pushing this narrative that hip hop was dead at the end of October. Y'all, this shit is scary. It's scary how these times are fucking matching up now. How close these times are lining up with each other. We're in November. It's November the 3rd. This narrative that fucking that Acadiddy was pushing about hip hop, Kendrick killing hip hop, was towards the end of October, 26, 27, not exactly 22nd of October, but it was after Drake's birthday, which was October the 24th. So, and then he says in Hey Now, shit gets spooky every day in October. He has been saying that the party is going to die. Will you be ready when it happens? Will you be ready when the party finally dies? And then people over here and start freaking the fuck out, and they're like, oh, Kendrick killed hip hop. Oh, he's the reason why hip hop is dead. No, hip hop never died. The smoke and mirrors have just been moved out of the way. So it's quite literally the scene from The Wiz. The Wizard isn't dead. The Wizard never fucking existed to begin with. It was all smoke and mirrors. It was all an act, a distraction to keep you placated so that you wouldn't ask questions, so that you wouldn't look too deep, so that you wouldn't look behind the curtain and see what was really there. And now that we know what's behind the curtain, Now y'all niggas want to say, oh, hip hop is dead. No, there was never a hip hop to begin with. It was the industry. Hip hop comes from the soul. There was no hip hop in the industry. It was manufactured. It was processed. There was no natural ingredients. None. All processed fucking chemicals. No life, no soul, no heart. And we've finally seen the machine for what it is. So no, hip hop is not dead. We just discovered that the industry version of hip hop was never what we thought it was. It was a doppelganger. It was designed to fool and distract us from the real hip hop. The real artists who have real stories that they need to tell. And those smaller artists are now rising up through the ranks because the smoke and mirrors and the pointless bullshit has been moved to the side. Hip hop did not die. You want to know what hip hop did? It evolved. Hip hop evolved. And in order for it to do that, a part of it needs to die. It's the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The party died, but in its place, a new party was born. The party that should have been there in the first place. The party that used to be there, but sadly was stomped out, was lying dormant for decades. The soul and the life has been revived. The passion and the pain and the struggle and the history, the story, it has been reborn. It's been reincarnated. This is a beautiful time for hip hop, actually. I would argue hip hop's in the best state that it's ever been in a long time. Just because you don't see rap songs on the top 100, it doesn't mean that rap isn't popping anymore. It just means it's taking a back seat. There's always a dry period in every genre. It's taking a back seat because it's taking its time to evolve. Hip hop went into its chrysalis stage during the rap beef, and it is now at the point where the butterfly, it is just now emerging. But I'm gonna stop yapping. I'm gonna go ahead and let him continue.
It's because he's afraid that his message is now so coded and buried that you won't pick up on the messaging, that you won't get what he's truly trying to say.
And you don't have to worry about that anymore, Kenny, because you got literal college professors dissecting your shit now. I understand why you were scared at the time, because it was very intimidating, because what you were doing was very ambitious. No artist just starting out in the industry would ever, do something like that with any hope of success against the industry and against the industry darling, the perfect little industry golden child that could do no wrong. He was basically going into the line of fire, but somehow he made it out without getting hit. Yeah, Kendrick did it, but at that point it was a miracle that he survived with his integrity and his morals intact. It was the work of God that guided him through this no man's land. And basically he had him protected in such a way that the industry, try as they did, could not get rid of this man. The fruits of his labor ended up paying off big time.
And what he actually did to Drake, now that it's coded. Good Kid, Mad City drops on October 22nd, 2012. Part of the Poetic Justice Theory includes the one that we, our first video, Decoding Drake and Kendrick, includes a moment where we talk about how Money Trees is the setup to the diss. Kendrick Lamar is one of those guys who is constantly calling back to his own albums, to his own songs. He is constantly referencing himself. Money Trees is the setup. And if you look at the track sequencing for Good Kid, Mad City, it goes from Money Trees into Poetic Justice. And that is 100% intentional. Where do you typically find shade? You typically find shade underneath
under
something.
Under a tree, especially when you're outside and it's summertime. You find shade under a tree.
So Kendrick Lamar intentionally put Money Trees above Poetic Justice. So Poetic Justice is underneath the tree, right?
Okay.
If you delve into the lyrics on Money Trees, like we did in our original video, he says, "You looking like an easy come up, you bish. A silver spoon, I know you come from, you bish. Think about who Drake is.
Easy come up, no struggle, none. And you know, from the perspective of somebody that has had to struggle and that overcame struggle, you can tell when somebody hasn't struggled because it's all in the way that they act. Because they can try all they can to simulate that struggle life, but in the end you can always tell because there's no real desperation, there's no conviction. It's just they're just playing a part. They don't actually understand. There's a disconnect.
Where he comes from. This dude was on Degrassi.
Yeah.
He's a middle-class dude from Toronto.
We're not using the word middle class. Drake was not fucking middle class, okay? Middle class compared to white people, maybe I would argue upper middle class, but Drake was a rich kid. Let's not even sugarcoat it. He was a rich kid that lived in a gated community that was a child actor. So like by the time because he started Degrassi when he was in his teens, he's always known success and fame and money and the industry. He's been in the industry since he was a child. That's not middle class. If you're in Hollywood when you're a child, all he's known is money. That's the one thing that I will disagree with on that, is that Drake is not fucking middle class. I grew up middle class. I wasn't poor, but I wasn't rich either. And, you know, but I had just enough to get by and just enough to have, you know, a nice, decent, fun childhood. We didn't have fancy shit, fancy clothes, or fancy cars, but we still were able to get, you know, game systems and board games and shit like that and still have fun because that's, you know, it's middle of the road. Let's continue.
A silver spoon I know you come from, you bish, and that's a lifestyle that we never knew.
And see, the silver spoon line directly contradicts what he said about middle class, because the whole term born with a silver spoon in your mouth means that you were born wealthy. You were born rich. You've never known struggle. You've never known what being poor was like. You've never known any type of financial adversity. Since we'll compare it to games, I'm a gamer. You know, we started at level 0 to get to our level 100. Nigga, you paid for your level 100. You didn't start down at the bottom like we did. So that fucking bullshit ass song, started from the bottom, now we're here, it's lies. You paid to win the game, and then you're gonna try to act like you went through the same struggle that everybody else went through, and y'all niggas just let him do that. Y'all let him clown in your face. Y'all let him rub his whole dick in your face. Talk about I started from the bottom even though I was an actor on Degrassi since I was a child and had never known any sort of struggle outside of my gated community. And y'all just ate that shit up. Y'all really ate that shit up. Like, I'm sorry, L. That's an L that we have forever. It's in the Hall of L's. Letting Drake become as famous as he did and letting him fool us into thinking that he was one of us. He's a fucking vulture, bro. It makes me mad because I'm like, I've seen so many fake ass people who will try to emulate and simulate a culture that they're not a part of. Kendrick said it right when he called Drake Malibu's most wanted. That white boy that wanted so badly to be black, but he didn't understand the why. He only understood the what and not the why. And that's what Drake did. He studied rap battles, he studied rapping and everything. He understood the what, but he did not understand the why. That will forever be his downfall.
You'd go at a reverend for the revenue. You'd go at a reverend for a check.
He basically says he has no morals. He said Drake is an evil son of a bitch who has no morals. He cutthroat business. You would go at a reverend for the revenue. That moolah, that manoir, them dollar bills, y'all.
It goes Holly Berry or hallelujah. Pick your poison, tell me what you're doing. Everyone is going to respect the shooter. Everyone is going to respect the industry.
So that Holly Berry or hallelujah sign, or that line, I take that as a, because, you know, back then, Halle Berry was, everybody loved Halle Berry back then. It's like, he's basically saying, do you want, basically, you know, choose one. Do you want the women or salvation? Pick your poison. Because he's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, my friend. You can't say that you know, you're Jewish faith or whatever, and that you hold morals and that you hold integrity, and then go around constantly chasing skirts, constantly sleeping with any woman with a pretty face and two legs. And he's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, bro. You gotta choose. Pick your poison. Pick your downfall. What's going on? What you doing? Because this middle of this playing the field flip-floppy shit, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna last forever. You gotta pick a side and stick with it.
But the one in front of the gun lives forever. The artist lives forever.
It says everybody's gonna respect the shooter because you get the street cred for shooting somebody. That's a big part, or that was a big part of street culture. Everybody's gonna respect the shooter, but it's not like a good respect. It's more like a respect out of fear. People will fear and respect the shooter, but the one in front of the gun lives forever. And I think he's alluding to the Tupac shooting. The one in front of the gun lives forever. They live on in their legacy. They live on in the memories that people have of them, their impact on the people around them. Tupac may have gotten shot, but him being shot essentially made him immortal. There's Tupac imagery everywhere. You can't go to a single store anywhere without seeing at least one Tupac shirt. Tupac lives on everywhere. His album covers, his music videos, the movies that he was in, his interviews, his photos, his pictures, memories from his family, his friends, people who were close to him. He is immortal because he has impacted millions of lives. And so that's millions of memories of one person. If that isn't immortality, I don't know what is.
And I've been hustling all day, this way, that way, through canals and alleyways, just to say that Money Trees is the perfect place for shade.
Yeah, I've been hustling all day. And so he's like, after all this hustling, after all this hard work that I went through canals and alleyways, this away, that away, just to say, at the end of the day, when I've been grinding all day, Money Trees are the perfect place for shade. Perfect place for shade. When the fruits of your labor bloom and you've achieved all of your hard work and you take your day of rest, where better to rest than under the very tree where the fruits of your labor were produced from?
That's just how I feel. How he feels is poetic justice, because the song Poetic Justice is not just a Drake diss. It is a perfectly penned and coded letter to not only his community of Compton, but to hip hop, to Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and it's a love letter dedicated to them and dedicated to you. And that's why, if you look at Poetic Justice, as we highlight in our first decoding video, we tell you that it is Kendrick Lamar speaking through Drake, and he gets Drake to say, I could never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real.
I could never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real. He basically got that motherfucker to say on wax, I don't write my own songs, which as a rapper is the worst thing you could ever admit. You could quite literally say that you killed somebody on wax, and it wouldn't even come close to the level of backlash that you get if you said into the mic, I don't write my own material. That would be like a comedian going on stage and telling their audience, I don't write my own jokes. I steal my jokes from other people. Because like rappers, comedians are also expected to write their own stuff because it's all personal experience. It's all them. It's all coming from them. So if they're not writing their jokes or if they're not writing their raps, then who is? How are we supposed to take anything you say at face value when we already know that you don't write your own stuff? So it's not coming from your brain directly. It's coming from somebody else who doesn't think like you. And so that personal connection is severed because it's not the artist and the listener anymore. It's the artist, the middleman, which acts as a filter, then the listener. So the listener is only getting a filtered perspective of the artist's actual identity.
Coming back to Drake's verse on Poetic Justice, he says, I can never write my wrongs unless I write them down for real. And It should be noted that at one point in the verse, Drake goes, I was trying to put you on game, put you on a plane, take you and your mama to the motherland.
Yeah, that part. Drake ain't never been in no motherfucking motherland. Drake would never even call it the motherland. I've never heard Drake refer to, I've never heard him even say the word motherland, like unironically. Drake ain't been in no motherfucking motherland. The closest thing that he's ever gotten to a motherland was his mom's basement.
I can't recall Drake taking a trip to Africa post Poetic Justice and putting someone on a plane and taking him with him to Africa after, the Poetic Justice song was released. But Kendrick Lamar, it should be noted that Kendrick Lamar takes a trip, a very public trip to Africa in 2015.
And then he goes on to produce the Black Panther soundtrack for the movie after his trip to Africa. So if y'all know where he got his inspiration from for that album, literally went to Africa. You can't get any more inspired than the motherland.
It's also on Poetic Justice where you get this third verse from Kendrick Lamar. The line in particular that I want to draw your attention to. Read slow and you'll find gold mines in these lines. Sincerely yours truly, and right before you go blind, P.S. It's not sincerely me and Aubrey Graham. It's not sincerely Kendrick Lamar and Drake. It's sincerely
yours truly. Yeah. When yours truly, that means you and you alone. Usually when you're writing a letter to somebody, when you say sincerely or yours truly, those both can act as closers, either by themselves or together. Yours truly means you. It means yours because it's in the context of you're writing a love letter. When you're writing a love letter to somebody, it'll be, dear whoever you're writing to, and you call them dear because they're very dear to you. They're very near and dear to your heart. And so when you say yours truly, you are saying, my dear, I give you this message. I am yours. And so I, being yours, am giving you this message as a symbol of me giving you a piece of my heart. And so that's where that comes from, the yours truly. So yours truly quite literally means sincerely me. Me, myself, and I think that was a Mary J. Blige song. Y'all correct me in the comment section.
He wrote this song in particular. And right before you figure it out, right before it dawns on you, the reason why he did it, P.S. is not postscript. That P.S. is shorthand for Pac Shakur. And when you truly think about Kendrick Lamar and his connection to Tupac's music,
I can see that. Like he said, it means postscript. It's to put something that you couldn't fit in the initial letter. It's like an addendum. So it's like you put your original message, you say yours truly, P.S., and then whatever extra message that you have, either that you couldn't fit in the initial letter or that you forgot to put in the initial letter. So the fact that there is nothing after the P.S. and the fact that there's no dots either. With acronyms, each letter is separated by a period. Now, P.S., which means both that P and that S should have a period behind it, unless that's not actually what it's supposed to say. I definitely can agree with him when he says that P.S. is shorthand for Pac Shakur. Notice how he said shorthand and not an acronym. I think he just initialed that fucking letter with P.S. because that's just mandatory. That's grammar. Whenever you're writing a letter and you're doing something postscript, that P and that S have to have a period behind them. That is mandatory. So the fact that it doesn't means that it doesn't mean postscript, but rather something else.
He is on that. And what a staunch listener to Tupac that he is.
And it makes a lot of sense too because of how dedicated Kendrick has been to Tupac. And he's even gone as far as to carry on the torch of the West Coast as the new king of the West Coast in Pac's place. He has said that he is reincarnated. He is the reincarnated form of Tupac, reincarnated to continue the mission that he started and to see that it goes through.
An advocate for people going to listen to his music and talking about openly the impact that Tupac's music has had on his life. He would never, ever allow Drake on a song dedicated to Tupac's favorite film that he did and dedicated to Tupac Shakur unless it was getting him to say something on wax forever that he can't take back. That would be poetic justice. Be what it is. And
see, I didn't know that was what it. I didn't know that poetic justice was an homage to Tupac just in the title alone. I didn't even know that was a movie. Now that he's saying with the context and with this new information, I have my puzzle pieces and he has his puzzle pieces. And right now, it's like we're comparing each other's notes, and the pieces that had gaps in them, those gaps are starting to be filled in.
Again, I'm condensing 12 hours worth of content, so bear with me.
Take your time. I'm sitting here
Moving
eating
on.
like a fat ass.
The final collaboration between Drake and Kendrick Lamar happens on A$AP Rocky's album, Fucking Problems. He says, "Girl, I'm Kendrick Lamar, aka Benz to me is just a car." That is a callback, believe it or not, to Buried Alive. If you go back and listen to the Buried Alive interlude, he basically says like the industry has Drake like mesmerized and addicted with Rihanna as a lady friend and an addiction that'll keep him in Mercedes-Benz. So he is saying a Benz to me is just a car. Like, I'm Kendrick Lamar.
As any normal person would say, a Benz is just a car.
Whole verse, but again,
That's
the
what it
line,
is.
another line that I need to draw your attention to, just to make these quick points, is the Halle Berry Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That's
Holler
his reference
back,
to-
I'll do ya.
He's referencing Money Trees.
Calling back to Money Trees.
Yep.
Because where's the perfect place for shade?
Under the
something.
money tree.
He's trying to draw your attention to the messaging. But again, he has to do it in code because the industry is now involved. He is an industry guy and he can't speak plainly anymore. So it has to be like this. That is the poetic justice theory in a nutshell.
So the root of the poetic justice theory is that Kendrick has been setting up he has been setting up a 14-year ass whooping specifically designed for Drake. And not because Drake is like that poppin' of a rapper, but because at the time, Drake was the face of the hip hop industry. He was the poster child of the industry. He was the golden child. Kendrick, that was his mission, was to completely dismantle the industry from the inside. And he had to play along by the industry's rules in order to do it, because if they found out what he was trying to do, they weren't going to like that. So unfortunately, he had to play along. He had to play by their rules, and he had to make it seem like he was on their side. He had to make Drake think that he was on his side, which is why he wrote for him 25 times and then put it in a fucking song. But he didn't like come out the gate with it. It was subliminal. He couldn't be as direct as he wanted to because now he had Big Daddy Corporation looming over his shoulder trying to figure out what the fuck he was doing. And so he had to move very, very carefully. The poetic justice theory is a lot deeper than what I thought it was. At first, I thought it was just, Kendrick got Drake to diss himself on a song. Now, listening to what he has to say, it is so much deeper than that. This wasn't just Kendrick making Drake diss himself. This was a 14-year assassination plot. It was the perfect heist. They finessed the industry. Kendrick and the rest of TDE finessed the fuck out of the industry. If y'all ever seen the movie Now You See Me with the four horsemen, the magicians and everything, how they would finesse these big corporations and these corrupt organizations out of their money to give it to the people, the common people. It was like a bunch of Robin Hoods, but if they were magicians. And that's basically what Kendrick and TDE did. They infiltrated the industry and finessed them and exposed them. The dark underbelly. He exposed all of it. He was like, I know you see the surface level shit, the money, the lights, the fame, the bitches, the cars, but all that glitters is not gold. And it was one thing for him to just tell us that. No. He had to show us little by little. He peeled away at the industry's outer shell until we saw the ugly truth. This was not just Kendrick getting Drake to diss himself. This was a calculated attack. This was a 14-year plan to completely decimate and dominate the music industry. His number one piece of evidence on how crooked the industry was, Aubrey. That was his smoking gun. It was never about Drake. Drake was just the means to an end. Kendrick used Drake as an example to show the true nature of these people that society idolizes and deifies. Drake was just the example because he was at the forefront, because he was at the top. He overthrew the 6ix9ine God and said, this is your God right here. You see all of this whiny, pudgy, flimsy, phony, fake ass theatrics. This is your God, the God that y'all chose to worship. Stripped him of everything just to make an example out of him. Just the amount of psychological warfare that I just witnessed. This is damn near 15 years worth of psychological warfare. He burrowed into this man's mind like a parasite, and he lived there rent-free for decades. He lived in this man's head rent-free for 15 years. And he got to the point where he was living in a lot of rappers' heads rent-free. He's still living in y'all niggas' heads rent-free. All you Drake stans and you Drake eaters and you motherfuckers that love hating on Kendrick for whatever reason, calling him he's a Grammy darling. Kendrick killed hip hop. He's still living in y'all niggas' heads. Then the more y'all say, oh, we don't care about Kendrick, Kendrick ain't shit, the more you're only proving my point, is that he has ingrained himself so deep into the culture. He has become one with the culture. He took hip hop back from the ones who constantly exploited it and bastardized it and sodomized it and used it to their advantage every which way. And he redeemed it. He had to kill the parasite so that the spirit that dwelled on the inside could come back, because it had completely taken over. It was like it was possessed. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, the Poetic Justice Theory, I see what the hype was all about. This shit was a lot deeper than any of us ever imagined. It wasn't just about the song Poetic Justice. It wasn't just about getting Drake to diss himself. It was about using Drake as an example to watch the party die. This was a slow execution, and Drake didn't even realize it. This was a trap. This is warfare. 3 years. He set up a trap. Control was not the one that started it. Control was the bait. He spent years setting this trap with Buried Alive, with The Heart Part 3, with Fucking Problems, with Good Kid, Mad City, with Money Trees, with Poetic Justice. It was all an elaborate trap to get Drake to expose not only himself, but the industry. That's why he gave Drake so much time. He needed to get the rap sheet together. He was basically like, I'm gonna go ahead and let you do your thing. I'm gonna let you talk your shit. I only have to sit in silence because you're gonna tell on yourself. I'm gonna just let you talk. I'm gonna let you expose yourself. Oh my God. Like, mind officially blown. Like, this, I see what y'all were talking about. The Poetic Justice Theory holds a lot of water. I would even go as far as to say that it's not just a theory anymore. Like, this is factual because there's so much evidence in this entire timeline and in the lyrics to the songs and lyrics from old songs connecting to lyrics in newer songs. There's so much evidence to back this up that I am willing to say that this isn't a theory anymore. This is solid. This is confirmed. The part of hip hop that was corrupted died. And in its place, a new, reformed, better hip hop was born. And it will continue to evolve as we pass this down from generation to generation. And that is the most beautiful thing of all. But, as always, I have been Nixus, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.